Should you be dating 5 men? And if yes, how do you do that? And if no, why not? If you're new here, I'm Alana Mackenzie Page, a dating coach and author of The Art of Feminine Seduction, a best-selling dating guide for women dating men for marriage and long-term relationship. We're talking about rotational dating and how to apply that in modern dating. What is rotational dating, you ask? It's dating more than one person at the same time. Now, when I say dating, it doesn't necessarily mean sleeping with, you didn't promise, you're only going to see these people, all of that kind of stuff. To get started, let's talk about how I learned to date from movies, from TV, from books I read, from all of these kinds of things, how I thought dating was really going to work. I believed there was going to be a day when I just met a man who was perfect for me, who immediately saw that I was his ideal soulmate, who pursued me without any kind of effort from me, and everything just fell into place because he loved me so much and I loved him. I was totally turned on by him. Everything would just work out really smoothly and it would be ideal, just like in a rom-com. Now, unfortunately, because of the dawn of online dating, this is not how dating works anymore. There are some people that does, it just happens for them naturally. However, for most of us, and anyone struggling in dating, and particularly online dating, you will know that that's not the case. That is not how it works every time. As the years went by, this did not happen for me. Even though I always devoted myself to whoever happened to be showing me interest in that time that I thought was a viable candidate for me to be a girlfriend for, and I continued to be in their life and spend my energy on them and wait and wait and wait for them to notice that I was their ideal match. So here's one of the problems with what I was doing originally. When I devoted myself to someone who actually had never told me that they wanted to be with me and only me, right? There was no talk of exclusivity. We were just dating. We were just getting to know each other. We were just hanging out and seeing what was there. I was also often deciding to sleep with them based on some kind of external factor, like we'd been seeing each other for a month and it seemed like the right time, rather than a deep sense of, I would love to get to know this person more intimately. There were a lot of things going on for me when I devoted myself to someone exclusively without ever having agreed with them, ever having gotten their consent or their buy-in or their feeling for me, like without actually having them feel like being with me, that I had devoted myself to them already. This is a problem, as you can probably imagine, because then you're just spending time on someone who isn't actually in it for what you're in it for. And it leads to all kinds of negative feelings about yourself, including that you're just not good enough, not meant for love, that you just are not, obviously what a man wants. Maybe you're a terrible girlfriend. Personally, this is where my mind went all the time, and I had loads of other negative things to talk to myself about how I had just failed as a viable romantic option for a man. And so I learned about rotational dating late in the game. I was finally studying dating and how to improve my dating life by the time I even had heard of the idea of dating more than one person at one time. And why rotational dating is so effective is that it keeps you from getting into that devotional space. It keeps you from getting into that place where you really have decided that you've met your person, even though they haven't decided that you're the person at all. And instead of committing before there's been mutual commitment, it lets you be in a very open space with yourself and with the other person where you are not desperate. You're not desperate for their attention. You're not desperate for their time. You're not desperate for their love and affection, for their energy. They're not standing outside your window with a boombox, but you're not worried about it. Instead of coming from this place of a little bit of desperation, and it can even be anxiety, or for me it was both anxiety and also feeling very defensive and detached, like, well, if they don't need me, I don't need them at all either. Instead of coming from that place in dating, it lets you come from a much more grounded, centered, open place, because you're really just getting to know some different people. You're dating this person sometimes, you're seeing that person sometimes, and it's a much more organic and natural process rather than you immediately sort of pinning down a person. Like, this is not about like, oh, I pinned this one down, this one's gonna be it, and it's gotta be it because I have no other options. So it gets you out of the scarcity mindset a little bit. Instead of being like, oh, this is my only one good option, you are instead kind of spreading it around and you're like, I'm getting to know this lovely gentleman and I meet that wonderful man sometimes. And it just allows for a more unfolding, like a timeless unfolding of the connection and of the relationship, instead of needing it to be like this and we better have a date this weekend because otherwise I don't have a date, right? Like I don't have anything if it's not you. And when you take that pressure off of early dating, attraction can grow so much easier. A real attraction, like actual connection, fiery, erotic goodness, which relies on a little bit of space. You can look into Esther Perel's work for more information on that. She does a ton of amazing stuff all about how you need this separation and connection in order to create erotic tension. So you want to be in that place of, I am available to not see you. I'm available to not talk to you all the time. I'm available to be open to other parts of my life and the rest of the world that don't have to do with you, person I'm dating. That was extremely helpful for me because otherwise I was in this place of really needing the man I was dating to do everything for me. Like I needed him to text me at certain intervals. I needed him to ask me out and follow through on it regularly. I needed things to be a certain way. And it turned dating from an exploration of who this other person was into a very high pressure, kind of tense, uncomfortable, and for me also a little bit heartbreaking time, because over and over again I would just find out this person wasn't the one, or didn't, we didn't have a strong enough connection and it wasn't going to work out the way I hoped, instead of it just leading to the amazing, beautiful relationship that I saw happening on TV and in movies and read about in books. That was not happening for me with this high pressure stakes dating kind of a game. And let's talk about why it might be 5 men or not. This is very nuanced because it's about your personal preference. For me, what I personally did is I went online and I found a bunch of matches. Like I just found as many matches as possible. Like I did not hold back on the matches. I was very, very open about great men, matching with anybody who had could be a great man that I would like to meet, kind of a sense. And I used my system, which you can learn about by following this channel, of flirtation, and I will post my course on flirtation down below as well. And then also emotional questions, which I have a video on that definitely, and we'll be making more very soon. This is a really powerful way to get to know someone's emotional intelligence really quickly and find out if they're really relationship material. I would use my system of flirtation mixed with emotional communication, which let me know if I was interested in meeting them for a date. I know some people do phone calls to vet people before they agree to something big, whatever your preference is. Again, this is all about returning to your own wisdom and really finding what works for you. So I would find as many as possible, and then I would begin to hone that list down through this process of flirtation mixed with emotional communication. And I would usually settle on about 3 people. So for me, the correct number, the one that I liked, the one that I found really comfortable, was 3 people. Then I would begin to date these 3 people. Now again, dating doesn't mean sleeping with. It doesn't mean, actually anything. It really doesn't mean anything. It was really just getting to know someone. We would text as often as we wanted to. We would see each other as often as we wanted to. We would hang out, doing the things we wanted to do. And that way I was really finding out who that person was, how they liked to handle themselves, how they liked to be in the world, and the way that they communicated, very important, how they liked to communicate. From there, I would hone that down even more, because pretty quickly, when you're really trusting yourselves and your instincts, you can find out who is not really going to be a great long-term life partner. It doesn't have to take a long time to figure that out. So at that point, I would either stop dating all of them or find one. And this is how my previous sort of relationships happened before I met my husband. Is I found someone who was really great. Like out of all of the men I talked to and all of the men that I had been dated, this one was great. Like this one was the one. And that was usually the person I chose to become physically intimate with, because that was the next level that I was checking. So to determine other long-term viability, I wanted to know if there was physical compatibility. And I did not choose to engage with more than one person at a time physically, because for me personally, that wasn't comfortable. Again, for you, this could be a totally different process. So I want to make that really clear that this has to do with your personal boundaries, preferences, desires. And this is just what happened to be what worked for me. Hookup culture did not work for me. I don't really enjoy casual. I really wanted to find my person. But the way that I did that was not by choosing someone and then sticking to them at all. It was definitely about exploring options and really finding out who these different people were. And I personally preferred to have 3 people that I was dating during my dating exploration times before choosing a person, before settling on someone who had shown me that they were interested in me, had demonstrated that they were going to be a great fit in certain respects, I could already tell. And I was no longer hoping and wishing. Like, I was no longer basing my dating on hopes and wishes that this man would turn out to be the way that would be great for me. So your number might be 5. You maybe should be dating 5 men. That is totally possible. I believed it would be exhausting to try to date more than one man. I really believed that dating more than one person was gonna feel really overwhelming. I wasn't gonna be able to keep track of who they were or something like that. And I was just going to not be able to handle it. That was a big story I told myself. I wasn't gonna be able to handle dating more than one man at a time. Now, what happens when you're dating with emotional intelligence, when you're actually using my system of getting that flirtation out of the way, which teaches you whether you have any romantic compatibility, and using emotional questions, which teaches you if you have that emotional compatibility, you're actually just getting to know someone at a deep level. So rather than worrying about whether you can't keep men straight, it's very easy to keep men straight because you are just focused on getting to know that one person. And it's sort of like if you met a friend, you would not necessarily mix them up with another friend of yours just because you have more than one friend. Getting to know someone at a deeper level involves getting to know them at a deeper level, and that just allows it more connection, and it allows more understanding of who that person is and more knowledge about what their life has been like. And so you're not really mixing them up. You're not really getting confused about who's done what in their life and how they communicate and how they prefer their lives to be. I had a lot of stories about energy and like how much energy I had for dating turned out to not be true once I actually was putting this system into use and really dating from emotional availability and awareness. Why wouldn't you want to be dating 5 men? The simplest answer of whether you shouldn't be dating 5 men is if you really don't want to. Now, I would say if it sounds just a little uncomfortable and you're just not sure about it, I would give it a try. I would give it a try, and I would start with maybe 2 to 3, making different connections at the same time. It's just so much more efficient in modern dating to be doing that. However, if you really don't like it or you really don't want to, definitely honor yourself and your own sense of intuition, your own feelings about it, your own desires around this, because that's really what's going to lead you into the kind of relationship that you want to be in, is if you can follow the breadcrumbs of what you want. You probably should be dating 5 men if you tend to be doing what I was doing, which is getting into your anxiety, getting into all of these kind of negative emotions. If you end up devoting yourself to one person really quickly and just deciding that this has to work or else nothing else can, and then I'm gonna have to find a new man. And then I wouldn't do it if it just doesn't sound good, and if you try it and it's energetically too difficult. Like, it's just too much work, too much effort, too much time, because dating does take time out of your life. And if it's not a priority in this moment, that's okay too. That's totally allowed. And when it does become the number one priority in life, I would imagine you're gonna find the time, energy, and space to really go out there and find the perfect partner for you, which sometimes entails dating more than one person at a time. Don't forget, it's also good to learn from more than one dating coach at a time, so do subscribe and stick around for the next video.